Always good to see the chairman, Radio Raheem, with Bob Arum, and with some eclipsing news on the day, which is always a pleasure to get a word from you when the headlines say Tyson Fury and Top Rank have made a deal for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world that we've all been waiting for and anticipating. My first thought when I saw it was Tyson Fury might be one of the most clever boxers and businessmen we've seen in the sport. It appears that he's gotten everything that he set out to want before and then in the situation that he will be fighting for the undisputed championship. Is this the road that he laid out in front of you when he decided what he was going to do for 2023?
I don't know exactly whether he laid out the road, but certainly it was a road that he dreamed about. And when Prince Turkey made it happen, built the road, Tyson was delighted to ride on that road.
Two fights, one being a fight where he seems to be a heavy favorite. Obviously, Ngannou is a big underdog as it's his first boxing match. But even in a fight like that, is there any danger in Fury looking ahead, setting another date? I mean, we know how the boxing gods have a sense of humor.
Well, you were over in England. You saw Ngannou. You know, he's not intimidated by Fury. He's a tremendous puncher. Mike Tyson is teaching him a little about boxing style. He'll give Fury a real tussle. He's a very strong kid. Can he beat Fury? I would have to say sort of remote. But it's going to be a tough fight, and hopefully Fury comes out of it unscathed.
Obviously, when this fight is finally made, the immediate question is, why wasn't it made before? What was different this time? You've talked about Turkey having been the difference maker in this fight. Will this now open the floodgates for fights in Saudi?
That's not a question to ask me. That's a question to ask Prince Turkey. I would certainly hope so, but it's my hope. In other words, they know what they're doing, unlike the other people that were involved and weren't really part of the whole system. Turkey is a big part of the Saudi government. He's head of the Sovereign Fund for Entertainment, and it is his goal to build this area in Riyadh, which we'll be at, where the arena is, into one of the greatest, if not the greatest, entertainment and sports centers in the world. So if you're doing that, you're going to try to get as many world-class sporting events there, whether it's golf or it's soccer or boxing. So I would hope that this augurs well for boxing, even after a Fury-Usyk fight happens.
I'm going to have to pick your brain about deals and fights that you're not directly involved in, but the amount of experience you've had in the sport might be able to lead us in the right direction on these answers. For instance, just a few hours before the Fury and Usyk news came down, I read that Joshua Wilder had completely fallen apart in the exact same region, seemingly would be dealing with the same entity. How are both of these things happening at the same time?
Well, a very good question, but I don't know the answer for sure. But I sort of, as somebody who knows what's happening there, they were dealing with a Saudi middleman, their Skill Challenge. And Skill Challenge was out of favor with the government. And so if Skill Challenge made a deal, as it apparently did, for a Joshua fight with Wilder, they had to go to the government for the money, and there was no chance they were going to get the money. So it fell apart.
A fight like that was once the undisputed fight, and now there'll be no belts on the line if it happens anytime soon. Do you feel like that's still a viable fight someplace else?
Yes, it is. if the fighters aren't crazy about the money. Skill Challenge apparently offered them large purses. Now, justified, not justified, I'm not going to say. They have to, if they're going to do the fight, which they can, they have to do it facing economic reality. And if they're willing to do it, the fight will happen. If they're not willing to do it, the fight won't happen. What can I say?
Outside of Usyk and Fury, do you still regard Wilder, Joshua as the top heavyweights? Is this still kind of the final four of the heavyweight division?
Not really. I mean, you sort of got to figure where the Chinese guy is. Zhang looks like he belongs there. I mean, tremendous performance with Joe Joyce. So again, I don't like to do top four, top six. Joshua's a top heavyweight. Wilder's certainly a top heavyweight. He's dangerous for anybody, the way he punches. But you got to put the Chinese fighter in the mix.
You've made history in Macau with Manny Pacquiao, putting on major events in China. Is Zhang a fighter that you could potentially promote yourself?
Yes. I mean, no, the answer is yes and no. Zhang is under contract to Queensberry, Frank Warren's Queensberry. We're very close, and we're all ready to discuss a deal where we would co-promote Zhang and bring him to whether it's China or Macau or Hong Kong. That's in discussion between Frank and his people and Top Rank.
That said, with the that said, and with the Wilder Joshua fight at the moment seeming to not be on the table, who would you like to see Zhang in against if you're in a position to make a fight for him?
That depends. A lot of ifs and buts down the road. I mean, obviously, Queensberry, which has the options on Zhang, will have, the most to say about that. There are a lot of big heavyweights, great heavyweights around that Zhang could fight. And again, it's economics. I mean, how much is Joshua going to cost? How much is Wilder going to cost? How much is somebody else going to cost that's not quite at that level?
You think, he is Chinese, obviously. A Chinese heavyweight is something that is rare. Certainly a champion is something we've never seen. How much is Zhang worth in China? And, if you bring a Joshua or a Wilder there, it could be huge money.
I think if it could be you, Rock. Right. I mean, they don't know Wilder or Joshua from the Man in the Moon. They do now know Zhang. He went back to China, got a hero's welcome. We have to match him with a top 10 heavyweight, maybe economically. The Mahmoud, the guy who fights out of Canada, who we're connected with, could be the opponent. But, Joshua and Wilder will price themselves out of this. So I think it's unlikely that we'll see either of them against Zhang.
I could turn your attention to Shakur, who is obviously here on the day as well. He said that, he wants to fight everybody. He wants to fight anybody. And he's having such a hard time fighting the guys that even sometimes have agreed to fight him and then pull out. This appears to be another situation that is reminiscent of Crawford. How do we avoid a situation where you have a fighter who wants to fight everybody but can't get the fights that he wants?
I think it's different. Crawford couldn't get the fighters that were tied to PBC because for whatever reason. So he couldn't get to fight the Garcias, the Thurman, and the Spencer. That really was something that was not good for his career, but it happened. That's not Shakur's problem because, for example, with a guy like Frank Martin, we made the deal with PBC for Martin, and then Martin pulled out of the fight. Not on PBC that they blocked it. They didn't. they agreed to the fight.
In Frank Martin's case, he wouldn't be the A side, but for instance, in Tank's case, obviously he would be. And even Shakur said he can't call the shot because he's not the bigger star. So how do you put him in position to be able to call the shot so he can get the super fight?
Well, let's see. Again, maybe this isn't the only market. Maybe our friends in different places in the world realize that greatness is what's important and get behind somebody like Shakur, and he becomes the big money magnet.
And lastly, Bob, obviously it is Canelo fight week. We've heard Terrence Crawford call out Canelo once at 60 and then even willing to go to 68. Do you think that's just bluster, or is that a wise challenge on his part?
Well, certainly you'll make a lot of money doing it. Whether makes any sense, that's up to Terrence and his people. Terrence is a great, great fighter. Going up to 168, that's a pretty big leap. But Terrence is an extraordinary talent. And if he feels he can do it, more power to him.
Where do you believe is a road that makes sense for Crawford now that he's getting all the accolades that he has desired, but still it's time now for him to be the pay-per-view draw, for him to make the money? What's the money out there for him?
Well, I don't know. Again, it's very, very tough to be the pay-per-view draw. Very tough. The guy, Canelo's done it. Tank Davis, Ryan Garcia. But Terrence he was in him. That fight did okay, not great. I mean, I'm not talking about Terrence's ability. So can Terrence carry a big pay-per-view event? That remains to be seen. And either Terrence takes a chance on himself or gets a promoter who's willing to gamble. It isn't going to happen.
And you mentioned Ryan Garcia, and so did Shakur just a few minutes ago, and he says that Ryan needs to get himself together, that even Derek James can't help him, as though, he's dealing with some personal internal challenges that will keep him from being able to perform at an excellent level. Obviously, Teofimo Lopez is a potential fight according to Oscar. Do you think that Ryan needs to get himself together before he can get into a big fight?
I never met Ryan. I don't know Ryan's situation. For me to say anything about Ryan, his mental situation, is just bullshit because I don't know anything about it. That's the truth. I mean, what am I going to make up some nonsense? I don't know. I just don't know.
If Shakur is successful, do we see him again in 2023, early 24? What's the road?
23. So 23, he's going to fight November 16th. So hopefully we bring him back sometime in the first quarter of next year, 24.
Do you have fights in mind for him, the kind of challenge that he's hoping for?
Yeah, it depends on how a lot of these fights work out. Depends on, like, Lomachenko's availability. I'd love to make him and Lomachenko. That'd be a big fight for him. So, again, one step at a time.
It seemed like Lomachenko wasn't interested in that fight. Is he more interested in it now?
No, Lomachenko didn't want to fight this year, for Christ's sake. I talked to Egas. He's his manager. Loma would love to fight Shakur, but he had, there was a war going on. His home is 10 miles from where they're bombing. He has other problems at home. So, but Egas assured me that Loma will fight first quarter of next year, and for me, Shakur would be a great fight for him.
Amazing. Last question, Bob. If Tyson Fury comes through Ngannou unscathed, there's no big cuts, no big injuries, we know we need one big fight to close 23. It's been a great year. Are we holding to the 23rd of December? Is that the fight date?
I don't know where 23rd of December came from. Right. If Fury avoids any injury, inshallah, as they say, then the fight will be when Prince Turkey wants to do the fight. You know, for me to say, well, we're going to do it here, we're going to do it there, it's not my call. It's not Frank Warren's call. It's the guy putting up the money.
Well, you're the guy putting up the promotion, so I'm always a pleasure to talk to you. I'm happy these fights are being made. Radio Raheem with the chairman, Bob Arum.